Some people don't wake up looking for joy. They wake up checking for damage. They wake up bracing themselves for whatever the day might break inside them. Because somewhere in their life, living stopped being something to experience and became something they had to endure. There is a certain kind of soul that moves through life not with excitement or wonder, but with caution, as if each hour is a room they must quietly enter, scanning for danger, predicting what could go wrong before anything even happens. These are the people who have learned, through grief and repetition, that life is not soft with everyone. Life, for them, has always been something to survive an obstacle course of emotional landmines, unpredictable outcomes, and disappointments dressed as hope. And you can see it in their eyes. That faint, distant look of someone who is here, but not fully here. Someone who walks through the world like they're carrying an invisible weight no one else can feel. They don't complain. They don't collapse. They don't scream or demand or break the way others do. They survive silently. They endure in quiet. They keep going because they have always had to. They are the ones who learned early that no one was coming to rescue them. No one was coming to soften the blow. No one was coming to turn chaos into comfort. So they became their own source of strength, too early, too fast, too young. And once survival becomes your default setting, enjoyment becomes a luxury you no longer know how to trust. People like this don't sit comfortably in moments of happiness. Peace feels suspicious. Joy feels temporary. Love feels like a trick. They are constantly waiting for the moment everything will fall apart again. Because their life has taught them that good things have expiration dates, and calm is just the quiet before another storm. Even when something beautiful happens, they hold it carefully, almost nervously, as if it might crumble in their hands. They don't relax into joy, they brace against it. They have lived too long in a world where the ground was always shifting beneath them. Maybe it was a childhood home filled with unpredictability, where shouting replaced safety and silence replaced affection. Maybe it was growing up with responsibilities too heavy for small shoulders, caring for unstable parents, navigating emotional chaos, learning to be the adult while still being a child. Maybe it was trauma in their teen years, heartbreak that destroyed their innocence, betrayal from people they trusted, or a long stretch of life where everything seemed to go wrong all at once. Pain doesn't just wound people like this, rewires them. Eventually, the brain learns to anticipate hurt before happiness. It learns that survival is more important than living. It learns to stay alert, stay guarded, stay prepared. And once that switch is flipped, once the body becomes accustomed to scanning for danger, it becomes incredibly hard to switch it back. People who live in survival mode don't do it on purpose. They're not choosing to be numb. They're not avoiding joy because they dislike it. They simply don't know what to do with it. Life taught them that comfort is temporary, so they never fully rest. Life taught them that happiness can disappear, so they never fully trust it. Life taught them that safety is fragile, so they never fully feel it. They live inside a constant underlying tension, a quiet, persistent tightening in the chest, a subtle clenching beneath the skin, a heaviness they can't quite shake. It's not always visible, but it's always there. On the outside, they seem quiet, reserved, maybe even stoic. They complete tasks. They show up. They do what they must. They avoid drama, avoid conflict, avoid anything that could shatter the fragile balance they maintain. And the world often misreads this as self-control or calmness. But beneath the surface is a person holding themselves together with tired hands. Someone who spends more energy surviving their own thoughts than anyone around them realizes. These individuals don't look for joy because they no longer trust it. They don't make big dreams because dreams feel like traps. They don't build elaborate futures because the present alone feels heavy enough. Their lives become small, contained, manageable, not because they want small lives, but because small feels safe. When you live in survival mode, you don't think about what makes you happy, you think about what keeps you functioning. You don't think about pleasure, you think about stability. You don't think about flourishing, you think about not falling apart. And the saddest part is, they don't even realize this is happening. Survival mode becomes so familiar that anything outside it feels wrong. Someone tries to love them deeply, and they recoil. Someone tries to bring excitement into their life, and it overwhelms them. Someone tries to help them relax, and they become anxious. Comfort feels strange. Peace feels unnatural. Rest feels dangerous. They are always waiting for the world to shift beneath their feet again, and so they never lay their full weight on it. They smile, but it's controlled. They laugh, but it's restrained. They participate in life, but from a distance. They have joy in moments, but it slips through their fingers before they can hold it. They have love in their life, but it doesn't reach the deepest parts of them, the parts that were taught to stay protected at all costs. They have opportunities, adventures, connections, but everything is filtered through the lens of survival. They think, how can this hurt me? Before they think, how can this enrich me? People like this often carry an invisible exhaustion, a deep, soul-level fatigue that doesn't come from physical labor, but from being in a state of internal vigilance for too many years. They're tired of bracing, tired of preparing, tired of surviving, but they don't know how to stop. They don't know how to shift from endurance to enjoyment. They don't know how to let their guard down long enough to feel something without analyzing it. They don't know how to step into life fully, because stepping fully into anything feels like giving up control, and control, for them, is everything. Control is safety. Control is predictability. Control is the thin rope they hold onto in a world that has taught them to expect the worst. But control is also a cage, quiet, comfortable, familiar, but suffocating. It keeps them safe, but it also keeps them small. It protects them, but it also isolates them. It shields them from pain, but it also blocks them from joy. It's not that they don't want happiness. They do. Deeply ache for it. Even they have moments when they fantasize about what it would be like to feel light again. To feel excitement without fear attached to it. To wake up with hope instead of caution. Sometimes they remember a time, often a faint, distant memory, when life felt easier, when they weren't so guarded, when their heart beat freely instead of being wrapped in layers of emotional armor. But those memories feel like they belong to another person, a person they lost somewhere along the way. They look at people who laugh freely, people who trust easily, people who live openly, and they feel a mix of admiration and envy. How do they do that, they wonder? How do they move through life without expecting it to collapse? They want that kind of freedom, but they don't know how to dismantle the internal structures that have kept them safe for so long. They don't know how to stop waiting for disaster. Someone once told them to just enjoy life, as if joy were a switch they could turn on. But joy isn't a switch. Not for them. Joy feels like a risk. Joy feels like stepping onto a bridge that could collapse beneath them. Joy feels like trusting the world when the world has given them every reason not to. Enjoyment requires presence, and presence requires safety, and they have never truly felt safe within themselves. The world doesn't see their bravery. But it is bravery, subtle, relentless courage. It takes courage to keep living when life feels like endurance. It takes courage to show up when your body is wired for retreat. It takes courage to continue when joy feels distant and survival feels heavy. They are not weak. They are warriors in invisible battles. They fight to get through days that others glide through. They fight to keep functioning. They fight to not be swallowed by their own numbness. And they fight without applause, without recognition, without anyone noticing the effort beneath their calm exterior. But even they, with all their guardedness and caution, have a small voice inside that whispers, I want more, not more responsibility, not more stability, more life. They want to feel joy without waiting for the price. They want to feel peace without anticipating the loss. They want to live, not just survive. They want to breathe fully. They want to feel the sun without worrying about the storm. They want to trust that good things don't always come with hidden consequences. They want to see life as something worth experiencing, not merely tolerating. But wanting is the first crack in the armor. Wanting is the quiet rebellion against survival mode. Wanting is the proof that some part of them is still alive, still hopeful, still human. And that part, no matter how small, is the doorway back to living. People who see life as something to survive often believe that they are too damaged to change. They believe enjoyment is for other people, not for them. They believe their mind is wired permanently for endurance. But the human spirit is stubborn. It heals in ways we don't expect. It grows in places we don't see. It softens even when we think it's hardened forever. Survival mode is not a personality. It's a response to pain. It's a shield, not a destiny. It is the mark of someone who has gone through too much with too little support. And while the world may not understand their quiet suffering, their internal battles, their withdrawn presence, their distant eyes. They are far stronger than anyone realizes. They have survived storms that would have shattered others. They have endured nights that felt endless. They have lived through things that rewired their entire emotional landscape. If you are one of these people, let this truth settle gently into your mind. You were never meant to live in survival mode forever. You stayed there because you had to. But you don't have to stay there now. Life does not have to be a battlefield. Joy does not have to be suspicious. Peace does not have to be temporary. You can learn to exist outside the armor, slowly, quietly, patiently. It won't happen all at once. It won't feel natural at first. But little by little, you can learn to breathe again. You can learn to trust again. You can learn to feel safe in moments of happiness without scanning for danger. And one day, maybe unexpectedly, you might realize that you are no longer just surviving life, you are living it, fully, softly, openly, and that realization will not be loud. It will be subtle, gentle, like a sigh you didn't know you were holding. It will feel like waking up after years of sleeping with one eye open. It will feel like coming home to a self you thought you had lost. And when that moment arrives, you will understand something profound. Survival kept you alive, but living is what will finally let you breathe.